Hey everybody, welcome back. I made a lot of progress since the last video, so let me catch you up. All right, so the last video lost my closing footage, so let me just kind of go back over this. I posted a couple pictures. So um, this framing up here is obviously I had to extend the existing cabin wall back up to the ceiling or the roof line. So this looks kind of, you look at it, it's a little bit janky looking. Got some boards cut in weird fashion, but what I was trying to do is actually go every 16 inches so we have support underneath each of the, you can see up in there, each of the rafters. So there's lots of support coming down there, but because of that and because of the existing framing that's there, I had to, some of these things, there was some interference, like this board here, notched a little bit more than I needed to, but I was trying to get over top of this board. In some cases, there's the rafter tail from the original cabin roof, so I just propped it up on there. But anyway, it's, the plan at the moment for this is, instead of just making a flat wall up there, our current line of thinking is to make cubbies basically in each of those spots. So a little bit of a planning process in here, but basically I'll make boxes and set them inside of each of those cavities, and that'll, I think, look nice in the end, but also be valuable because small cabin, and eventually when we're going to be, the plan is, if you haven't seen any of the earlier videos that I have, our long-term plan is to live here in about 3 years. We're going to live here full-time while we are building a bigger house in a different place on the property. So anyway, so storage is at a premium here in this little cabin. So anything we could do to, have, my wife is a big book reader, so places to store books, and who knows what else we're going to put up there, wine bottles, whatever. But that's the plan for that. So another thing, a couple things that have happened since last time. So the last video, I had just passed the framing inspection. So I was able to move forward with the next couple stages, which would be the rough-in, the electrical rough-in, and then the insulation. And for those, I didn't have to have the inspector come out. I was able to send pictures of everything to him, and actually passed both of those things. So I had the electrical done. It's been about 5 days maybe ago. Passed that, and then didn't have anything to correct there. And then the insulation inspection, I literally just had that passed yesterday. Nothing to do there as well. So let me kind of show you what I've got going on with the insulation. So code in our area is for the walls, R15 is the minimum. So that's what I've got, R15 bats. Well, they weren't bats, they were the rolled insulation, but I cut them to length, obviously. For the ceiling, this was another area I got a little bit of grace for. We're actually in a zone that, for new construction, that requires R49 in the ceiling, which kind of surprised me. But again, because this is an unconditioned space, we are attached to the cabin, obviously, but I got a little bit of leeway again from the inspector here. And with my 2x8 rafters, he allowed me just to stick with R19, so that was nice. I was able to save a lot of money. I was a little concerned that I have to go with spray foam, and hadn't had it officially priced or anything, but I know it was going to be pricey. So, and on top of that, if I were to try to go with bats to meet R19 or to R49, those are like 14 or 15 inches thick. And so I was going to have to, the only way I could have done that if I didn't go spray foam with the bats, was I was going to have to drop our ceiling down like quite a bit, like just a little bit over top of the window framing, just to accommodate that space. And that would have been not desirable at all. We were hoping to keep our headroom in here. The cabin ceiling, the main cabin, is actually pretty low. So we were really hopeful to be able to keep as much headroom in here as we can. So as it is, we're going to have full height ceiling, so over 8 feet. Well, about 8 feet up here at the top. So just giving you a look around at the insulation. Nothing special really, just made sure everything was covered up. I'm actually still going around. I've got to finish You can see there's a little bit of the spray, the window foam in there, the gap. What do you call it? What's it called? Great stuff. So I use that on the bigger spaces around the windows, not so much on this window. Let's see, there's a couple of windows that had some larger gaps. This one here, I used that foam, and it looks a little janky. I kind of went through there and cut the excess off, but so it's a little bit frayed looking at the moment. But anyways, I've got that, and then so I'm going to go back in now. I've got to go back and caulk with just some caulking. I've got some big stretch I'm going to use for the smaller gaps around the windows before I finish that up. Another couple little details I've got to take care of before all is said and done. Some of those will be done from outside, but I don't know if you can see. You see down through there these gaps in the siding. Let's see, this one maybe. You can see a little daylight through there. So I need to spray some of the foam back in there to cover up those gaps before, and I'll do that before I leave back for our regular home here in the next couple of days. Okay, I'm going to take you outside. Let me show you what's going on under the deck. Let me turn this around and give you a better look. All right, pardon the mess underneath the deck. Well, I keep calling it the deck. It's not, I guess it's still a deck, but under the room, I've got all my kind of extra scraps of wood under here. But what you can see here is I went with rock wool, excuse me, rock wool insulation under here. It's, you know, I don't know all the scientific details, but it's made apparently from some combination of ground stone and metal fibers. So it is not conducive to growing mold, mildew, fungus, anything like that. So it's really suitable for this type of application where it's going to be exposed not to rain, but moisture from outside, humidity, etc. So this is actually R23. The code for this area minimum was R19. And I could have, so I'll talk about the floor inside here in a little bit, but I'm going to have some insulation board going down before I put sheathing down on the floor. So I could have, or so I'm going to, insulation board is R5. So I could have gotten away with an R, 15, which there was an R15 that I could have gotten from the rock wool, but I just decided, since this is exposed out here, air will be flowing through here, I thought I may as well just beef it up a little bit more and go with the R23. So let me tell you, this stuff, it was a dream to work with. If you've not used it before, this is the first time I've used it, but it comes in 4-foot sections. Maybe you can see the cuts there in the middle. So they came that way from the factory, and they are cut to a little bit over 15 inches, and you just stuff them up in the cavity. There is no, as long as you have standard 16-inch spacing, there was no cutting I had to do for the main spaces here. Now, obviously, there's some cutting. If you come over here, around some of the posts and things, I had to do some custom cutting, but for the most part, this went in so nicely. I got all this done. So this is a 8 by 21. And what took me on the inside to do like the ceiling, where I had to cut and staple and do all that, it took me a good part of the morning. I would say at least 3 hours to do that nonstop. This I got done, even crawling around in this low area here, done in an hour and a half, with even a couple of breaks in there. So it was just super nice to work with. Okay, so back inside, let me kind of give you a little bit of a sense of what was done. I didn't really show you the wiring, obviously, because everything's covered up, but let me kind of show you what's the plan with the wiring going inside the cabin here. So this These light switches here originally, this actually is a three-way switch for our lights inside the cabin. Turn them off. On. So that one is just staying, nothing special there. This switch used to be for the porch light out here in the cab, off the side of the cabin. This is now going to be a three-way, well, it is a three-way switch. Don't have our lights installed yet, but this will be a switch that will control all the lighting in the addition. Okay, from the inside. Sorry. Okay, so then in here, we'll have our sliding glass door here, of course. And on this side, this is the other, let's see, which way do I have this? I got to think for a second. This is the three-way switch for the room. This is actually a porch light that's going to be mounted right up there in that little location. I don't have my fixture yet for that. And as I said, I don't have the lights are not installed yet. I'm going to use the recessed, those camless recessed lights. I'm going to try not to blind you with the work light. Let me kind of get over here. So I've got kind of just a temporary junction box in here, and I know it's, yeah, not the code over there. But it's just, I've got the wires capped in there, and I just have that junction box there really just to keep it contained while we're here before I get the lights installed. So anyway, so those will be coming. I can't really put those lights in until we get the finished ceiling on. So anyways, that's kind of a temporary setup for that. Outlet wise, so what I ended up doing, I've got nothing on this wall right here, and again, as I said in the last video, I got a little bit of slack given to me from the inspector about holding me to the 12-foot, 6-foot kind of rules, but I do have one. I put an outlet over here just inside the sliding glass door, because my thinking is we'll more than likely have some seating over here, whether it's a small couch or a chair, whatever. So we could have the need for a lamp or for plugging in cell phone chargers, etc. So I did get one there. And I just, I thought about trying to put one or two here, but given, we have all this wood siding on here, and then on top of that, once you get past there, we have some of this, like stuff from the original cabin to go through. It just seemed to be like it was going to be kind of a nightmare to get things set up with that, and fishing wires and things like that. So I decided, let me put this one in the new framing over here, and this is not very far. We can, if we have a couch, down here, we can just run a power strip, which I know it's kind of not sophisticated, but run a power strip to the other side of the seating, and then we'll be fine as far as outlets go, convenience wise. Now on this other side, I did end up putting, so I got an outlet here under this window. I put one in the center, mostly center. I couldn't do it exactly in the center because I got a couple of different studs right there in the middle. But then, and then one more over here. So really I have plenty of outlets on this side. And then if I spin you back around, that outlet right there used to be our GFI outlet that last video, again, I showed you we have an aerator for our pond, was connected in there. That I converted this back just to a regular old outlet. And then down here, outward facing, is the new GFI outlet. And so you may or may not even be able to hear it. Our aerator is running right now. It's pumping, and it's pretty quiet inside here, so I can barely hear it, but way better than having it inside. Of course, we wouldn't want it inside after we finish the room anyways. But so anyways, that's pretty much the electrical situation. The good news is, you can see I'm actually plugged in there. My work light is plugged in. I've tested all the outlets work, so pretty awesome. Okay, so what are the next steps? So next thing I'm going to do is actually start working on the floor. You can see there's a couple of spaces where I've patched some boards that had some rot in them. The guy that we bought this place from, he didn't use pressure treated decking, which I guess, you know, if you keep it stained, preserved, um, and dry, may not be that big of a deal. But this part of the cabin, this side of the cabin, again, this was the water would shed right here and no gutters, and so rain would just come down here. You can even see the remnants all over the siding there, where it just kind of got mildewy. It didn't dry out very well, and so it really promoted rot in a couple of places. So I replaced those so I don't have to worry about that underneath our feet. But the plan is I need to build the floor up. So I mentioned in the last video that I'm using 2x4s down there. I'm keeping them in place instead of cutting them out when I put the doors in. So I need to build up the floor here to match that 2x4 before we put finished flooring in. So the plan is I'm going to use actually the king span that's actually up on the doors right now for our temporary door closure. That's 1 inch thick, so I'm going to be putting those down on the ground first. Well, actually not first. Let me kind of pan over here. First thing I've got to do, I've got this synthetic underlayment. I'm going to put it down on the floor before I put the king span down. I've thought back and forth about whether I need to do that or not. And the only reason I'm thinking about putting it down there, since I've got everything insulated underneath right now and there's no air really coming up to speak of through the floor, is I've just heard different things, read different things about ants in particular liking to live inside king span. And I'm sure, at least I assume, it would be more prevalent when you're like closer to the ground and you're exposed to moisture and things like that. So I may not have to worry about it at all, but I started thinking about it. I may as well give myself a little more peace of mind and put this underlayment down first, and maybe any insects that might happen to get through the insulation and below won't have a clear path to the king span. So that's my thought. So I'm just going to put that down first, and then the next steps will be to lay king span down, and then I'm going to cover that with about a 1/2 inch either OSB or plywood as my subfloor. And then at that point, this room will be ready for kind of finishing touches for, well, I got to put the doors in. That's going to be the next big thing. The doors, I still have to get the roof metal on. So I need to get that done before wintertime comes. It's coming fast, but anyway, so the doors will go in, and then once I get the kind of the subfloor built up here, then we'll be ready to start doing more finishing touches, and I'll, of course, finish this wall and the cubbies. So it may take a little while, but at least we'll be set for winter. I can work in here as I need to and get things done. Okay, well, that about catches you up to speed, I think, about where I'm at status-wise, and I'm not sure, it might be 2-3 weeks before we get back down here again, so I'll try to keep you updated as we make more progress. So till then, take care, everybody.